former nurse from Idaho pleaded guilty today to tampering with evidence related to missing Woodland Park mom Kelsey Berreth. And
there's blood everywhere. There are bloody footprints everywhere. And Crystal cleans up blood, but leaves behind some telltale evidence for our investigators.
Sam Kramer continues his coverage in studio tonight. Sam.
Yeah, Nicole Haywood and Kelsey Berreth were friends since grade school. She tells me she's happy that investigators should get a better picture of what happened, but thinks Kenny is getting off easy.
He's cooperating with police and gave an explanation for missing Monday's press conference. But the question remains, what happened to Kelsey Berreth? She's been missing since Thanksgiving Day. Surveillance video shows her walking into a Safeway with her baby the day she vanished. A statement through his attorney saying his phone was searched. He submitted photographs and DNA. The statement further explains that he was only notified of the press conference an hour before it started and reads, quote, Mr. Frazee hopes and prays for Miss Berreth's return. On Tuesday, Frazee dodged reporters and refused to answer questions.
This is private property. This is a private road.
Berreth's fiance and father of her child is accused of killing her on Thanksgiving. Rick Sounder joins us now in the news.
The child has pleaded not guilty.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the Chasing a Murderer and the Talking News. We're going to be going over the Kelsey Berreth case, which I've not been able to update in quite a while. So Kelsey Berreth is that young, beautiful pilot and mother of a 1-year-old who was engaged to Patrick Frazee at one point, who is from Colorado, so Woodland Park, Colorado. That's where she was living at the time when she disappeared. And it was on Thanksgiving Day, actually, that was the actual original date that she disappeared. But it was like a week afterwards that we really started hearing about this story. Kelsey Berreth's mother, which is Cheryl Berreth, ended up making a trip down to Woodland Park, Colorado, where she stayed in the townhome, I believe, with Kelsey Berreth's brother, her son, so Cheryl's son. And they found some very horrifying tips of what might have happened to her daughter. If you're wanting details on the story, guys, and I mean very graphic details, you can go check out my older videos, but I'm just kind of giving you a quick cap before we finally get into the updated part of the story here. And so Cheryl Berreth called the DAs and investigators to let them know that she had found what she thought maybe was residue on the toilet seat and a few other places. So the investigators come back out to Kelsey Berreth's townhome. They test this residue and find out that indeed that was the residue of Kelsey Berreth. This actually turned this missing persons case into what they thought would be a homicide case. It's at that point that we start seeing some very telltale signs that there was something dirty going on with the disappearance of Kelsey Berreth. One of those was the fact that Patrick Frazee didn't seem to give a care in the world that Kelsey Berreth was missing, and his story didn't add up. He missed, as you've seen earlier, he missed the press conference when they were going to put out, some information on Kelsey Berreth. He didn't show up for that. His excuse was he didn't find out until an hour before it started. Shortly after that, we had a few witnesses coming forward giving interviews, and we heard about a nurse that was named Crystal Lee Kenny. She was divorced, living with her ex-husband and her children, all living in the same household. And we find out that she had made several trips down to Woodland Park with the plans to try to take Kelsey Berreth's life. But she ends up confessing that she did do this, but she wasn't able to do it. And as police closed in on these guys and the story started to unravel, she went from lying to the investigator, saying, she didn't know anything, to the fact that she had, she was scared. She didn't know what to do, what to say, and that she left some of that evidence that they found behind on purpose. And that was her good deed of a human being, instead of calling the police and saving the girl's life. She left the residue behind for police to find, which we all know is a complete and utter lie. Here we are, moving on to 9 months, and Kelsey Berreth still hasn't been found, and the story only gets worse as time moves on. Patrick Frazee has been behind bars, and we were all wondering when Crystal Lee Kinney said she would accept the plea deal and testify against Patrick Frazee. We were wondering, is Patrick Frazee going to sit there and take this? Is he going to accept it? Or is he going to come back fighting? And I always said, and I don't know how you guys felt, but I'm pretty sure that he is the type that if he's going to go down, he's going to take somebody down with him. So I was expecting for him to use his defense to try to throw the blame onto the nurse. He's not a super smart guy, but he's not dumb either. So I think that probably he's going over the evidence, looking at what the witnesses are saying and seeing what he can match up and whether or not he can do this, whether he can pull this off. Because now we're hearing that the judge has told, let me get the articles for you and let's go over the updated information. So what they're saying is prosecutors in the Kelsey Berreth murder case are seeking a court order requiring the defendant Patrick Frazee to disclose any possible intent to introduce evidence at trial of an alternate killer. We do realize that Crystal did admit that she had 3 separate occasions where she tried to take Kelsey Berreth's life herself, and claims that she was not able to go through with it. In fact, on one of those occasions, she says on an affidavit that she takes a Starbucks coffee to Kelsey Berreth's house, hands her the coffee, but there was nothing in it. The original plan was to put poison into that coffee and to poison Kelsey Berreth until she was gone. But the truth of that matter is there was 4 attempts. So moving on with the updated information. So the motion was filed in Teller County District Court on Monday, asked the court to require the defendant to endorse the alternate suspect defense if he intends to present such evidence at trial. Now, my opinion is this. If he decides to do this, he does have a time limit and a date to have to say whether or not he's going to introduce a different perhaps killer involved. I think he's going to, if he was to do it, he would push it to the end of the time limit, therefore trying to give prosecutors not enough time to really be ready for it. And I know this because the prosecution's document does not name a possible alternative suspect in the 29-year-old woman's murder. And according to this, the Teller County judge said he would decide by this coming up week whether to bar statements Patrick Frazee made to a social worker that Kelsey Berreth was abusive to a 1-year-old daughter. So we have that going on as well. The thing is Judge Scott Sells said that he will make a decision by August 30th on whether to suppress the evidence after listening to its testimony Friday from the social worker during a hearing in Cripple Creek. And that's according to Denver 7. And this is interesting. So Frazee's attorney argued that the statements could be used at trial because he was not advised of his Miranda rights before his December 26th interview with Teller County Department of Human Resources caseworker in the county jail. But on August 30th, the Judge Scott Sells found that the caseworker did not need to read Frazee his rights because She was not a law enforcement officer, and Frazee voluntarily agreed to participate in the interview. So I believe that Frazee has a reason why he wants to do this. And so according to Frazee's attorneys, Frazee wanted to block the client's statement from the interview because the caseworker asked incriminating questions about dates related to the criminal case. So this is going to affect whether or not he can pin this on Crystal Lee Kinney. Anyways, the caseworker, Mary Longmire, was tasked with learning about Frazee and where the couple's child was during Berreth's disappearance, so she could recommend to a judge who should have custody of the child until end of the trial. So yes, he has until September 16th to enter, let them know whether or not he's going to claim there is another person involved. So also the trial is set, before I forget, for October 28th, which anybody will be paying attention to this trial. I think those of us who have kept up with the Kelsey Berreth case are kind of hoping to see what Frazee will say about the other suspect involved, which she actually hid the phone, texted Kelsey Berreth's mother, her job. So she took part in this, disposed of the phone. She was agreed on, according to her, 3 separate occasions to kill Kelsey Berreth, but couldn't go through with it. We're curious what Patrick Frazee's side of the story is going to be, because if you think about it, we have a lot of missing pieces to this puzzle, and he's probably going to fill in those pieces. And with the Idaho resident, Crystal Lee Kinney, Frazee's primary accuser, Kinney claims that she helped clean up the residue and other evidence in Berreth's Woodland Park townhome after Berreth's disappearance on Thanksgiving Day. And on this affidavit, which states several different things, I have to say, I have seen the affidavits and they've been changed up a bit. They've been doctored. Kinney told investigators Frazee confessed to her that he tied a sweater around Berreth's face, then beat her to death with a baseball bat. And she was there for the entire thing. So a lot of people are questioning whether or not she legitimately is truthful for the fact that she didn't want to go through with this. But the fact is, saying I can't go through with this and I will not go through with this are the key factors. Can't and not are very important words in this case, in my opinion. And she said she couldn't go through with this, not that she would not go through with this. So when Patrick Frazee did the job, he says you have a mess to clean up. She certainly didn't turn that down like she did the other before. So prosecutors could use that, or the defense. She was able to do that part of it because that's something she's familiar with. Being a nurse, she has dealt with gore and residue in her job. Now, one thing that Idaho nurse says is that she left behind some evidence for police to find. And let me tell you guys, as bloody as that scene must have been, and as clean as it was for how the guy went about taking her life, as I'm going to put it that way, it had to have been a horrific mess, like she stated in the affidavit. Now, investigators come into that townhome once before. They couldn't find anything. Now, there's only a few reasons as that could be if she purposely left something behind, and that is they didn't want to find anything. They didn't care to find anything. You know, what's the truth on that case? We don't know. We do know, however, that Kelsey Berreth's mother come to stay at the townhome, and while she looked for her daughter and found the residue herself, called the investigators, and investigators come back out, tested it to find out that it was Kelsey Berreth's residue. It's at that point that things changed, and if it wasn't for her, where would we be today? We don't know. But the fact of the matter is they did have to look pretty hard for that stuff, and her saying that she left something behind, well, I just don't know if I believe her. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think the majority of us think that anything that comes out of that nurse's mouth is a complete and utter lie. So what's Patrick Frazie's next step? And, you know, I've guessed him pretty well up to this point. I even guessed that he might even try to pin it on the nurse instead of him, which is something that is plausible if you were to think about it. I mean, he could turn it to a crime of passion. And a lot of people are wondering, can Crystal Lee Kinney see harder and harsher charges in the future? Now, I do not know law, and I've tried to search this. I don't know if any of you are attorneys or work for an attorney. Maybe you can answer this question, but it seems to me they're waiting until the trial's over for a reason. They're waiting for Patrick Frazie's trial to get passed before they actually sentence the nurse. And this, I think, they have a reason for. Now, we do know that they spent a lot of time, months, searching for Kelsey Berreth. They ended up going to a landfill. They had no luck finding her anywhere. And this, we wondered if this would affect the case. And I don't think it will very much. I think that they'll be able to still continue with this trial and seek justice without finding her. Now, back on the subject of the social workers. So Longmire did testify during the Friday hearing that Frazie signed and released of information document provided by the Woodland Park Police before she spoke to him 5 days after he was arrested. And that's according to the Denver 7. So when they're trying to say that she kind of steered him towards incriminating himself, basically, but at the time she wasn't aware of the allegations against Frazie, so I guess they think that's not something that could have happened. So obviously whatever he said to her and the new direction he wanted to take this case in, it seems whatever he said that day is probably going to hurt in whatever direction he wanted to go. So, like I said, in October when this case and trial starts up, it's going to be a very interesting one to watch. Patrick Frazie strikes me as one that would, and this is my opinion, guys, on this part, that he will not go down without bringing somebody with him or without a fight. But you know what gets me the most on this case out of all of it is the friends of Crystal Kinney. Michelle, my gosh, Michelle Stein, the one that did the interview, I think was CBS, was it CBS? I think so, but she did an interview claiming that her friend was in fear for her own life, and we know that she was full of crap. In fact, A lot of people had a lot of things to say about that interview with Michelle Stein, and I want to share some of those comments real quick with you. Here's a few of them. So one of the comments has this to say after watching the interview: "Oh yes, please, tell me what a good person she is. Coming from the mouth of another good person, right? You both are evil, horrible human beings who deserve to be punished for the horrible, horrendous, and inexcusable evil things you knew and hid. I hope you all rot in hell and justice is served for Kelsey. Karma is real, beep. And I hope it finds you both faster than it does most." So this comment, I'm not going to say who it was coming from, but it was posted on a story linked to the interview of Michelle Stein. And these people are seeing straight through these lies. There's enough information that you don't have to second guess their intentions of their character. I mean, it's very clear to the majority of people that Michelle Stein knew what was going on. She had many chances to save and prevent this from happening, but she chose not to. And not only that, we can't say for sure, but at this time, what we know, it seems that Michelle Stein, when you've seen people asking questions, where is Kelsey Berreth? She hasn't said a word until the FBI contacted her. And we don't know, because we don't have the affidavit of what was said, but I'm sure when trial starts, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to know how long it took for Crystal's friends to come forth and say something. Okay, let's go over this one. So, why does media give these people who had knowledge of the murder about to happen and didn't report so much FaceTime? One more reason not to trust the media or what they are reporting. So here you see the people questioning why the media isn't really pushing her and to, answer harder questions, more precise questions. And also, they have a few other doubts about the media. So, yeah. Here we go, actually. I found this for you guys. So, why didn't the interviewer ask harder questions? Did you loan your car to Crystal? And were you with her? Michelle, did you or Crystal do anything to stop Kelsey from getting murdered? Why are you standing by Crystal when you knew Patrick killed Kelsey? Crystal said it in court last Friday. I feel that everyone who knew about this should also be prosecuted, which we all agree. We do agree with this comment. Is why in the world is the law not working for Kelsey here? We can only guess that Crystal's posse is working together to lie and manipulate and testify against Patrick Frazee. So they're going to be working their story, most likely, to be sure that Patrick takes the complete fall on this. Okay, finally, for the last comment, this is an absolute disgrace. This interview needs to be pulled. How dare you? Can you imagine how Kelsey families feel hearing this baloney? There is a gag order for Crystal not to talk, but she put her friend on here to defend her and let the world know that Crystal and her friends all knew about Kelsey's murder and did nothing. They all got away with murder. How dare you lighten what Crystal got away with? Pull the interview down and put up Kelsey's friends and family. And I know we all relate to this comment right here, because we realize that media wasn't hard enough on Crystal. They really weren't. And the family's really been kind of quiet And I think we know why the family's quiet. They don't want to hurt the case. But it's going to be interesting to see if they speak after trial, after this is all over, what they had to say. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are worried whether or not these guys are going to get prosecution that they deserve. And what I'm wondering is, how in the world do you find so many people that can do such immoral things, such evil things? And this is what kind of frightens me. Think about it. We all have best friends and family. Let's think about this. So if we were to talk to our most best friend and tell them, say, you know, hey, I'm in a dilemma. My so-and-so fiance, ex-boyfriend, whatever it might be, asked me to, you know, kill someone else. What should I do? So what would the response be from the best friend? One could only hope that the best friend would give you good advice, like go to the police. But would your best friend say, listen and actually talk about it? So that's what we have to imagine here, because at one point Michelle Stein goes to the Rockstalls, their attorney, and said, look, my best friend's got a boyfriend that wants her to help kill somebody. It's at that point when you address an attorney that you have to question, what was the purpose of that? Was it to try to find out, you know, how you can protect yourself? Because it definitely wasn't to try to find out how to protect Kelsey. It's very clear that the best friend was looking out for Crystal then, and not Kelsey or the moral values of the case. So she wasn't caring whether or not Kelsey's life was in danger, and that's what really upsets people. But would your best friend do this? Absolutely not. Your best friend heard something like this, most likely the best friend will probably cut you off and never talk to you again. And at that point, probably even call the police. The whole story is a disaster. The whole story is a horrific, just disappointing story overall. And a lot of us are just wondering, why in the hell do we not see more of these people behind bars? Even if Crystal was their only option to take this guy down, it still doesn't make sense. I guess we'll have to wait until the trial starts and see, because like I mentioned, law is my weak point. Now, I know, guys, I asked people, I sent in questions for an interview. I was hoping I would get a response and I could place your video on here along with the story. I never did get any submissions. I don't know why. Maybe they forgot, but that's okay. There will be another video. If you're interested in doing that, I can add it to another. But right now we have what they are saying, a Category 5 hurricane approaching our house and our home just a few days away. So I'm not able to put into these videos like I normally do. But I did want to go ahead and get this update out. It's not the way that I wanted to do it completely. I'm having to actually record outside because, y'all, as you guys know, my husband was in an accident. He's still at home, but guess what? He goes to work next week, which means I can start putting more time into these videos again. Forgive my bad edits on this one, guys. I was in a hurry, like I mentioned, and I hope anybody that's in the path of this Category 5 hurricane, I wish you the best, guys. Stay safe. I'm sending you hugs and blessings and everything else, because this is not something you want to play with. This is a very dangerous hurricane, and we are watching this thing very closely. Where we are right now, we ran out of supplies actually like 4 days ago. But we did manage to get our hands on some plywood, only 3 pieces. But with a hurricane that's a category 5, oh my gosh, that's just a scary scenario, even with plywood. But guys, I wanted to make sure I mentioned, if you are in the path of this hurricane, please, and I'm talking about everybody on the East Coast of the United States or the Bahamas, go ahead and get your supplies right now. If you use them, fine. If you don't, you have them for another time or another emergency. But do not wait. Trust me on this one. Fill up your cars, everything you can right now. I'm telling you what, it's been tough for us. We've had my husband get in an accident at work, then they got in a wreck. We've had like one thing after another, and now this category 5 approaching us. So hopefully it will take a sharp turn to the north. That way we don't, any of us, have much to worry about. But I want to send my hugs and blessings out to you guys. I love you guys. I'll be back soon. I'm trying hard. Just forgive me, the videos I do get out, I'm just trying to get something out. They're not done like I normally do. But just be patient with me. And I appreciate you guys caring. That's important. So, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.